Live from MMA Fighting Studios, this is Between the Links. And now, your host, Mike Heck.
The iconic voice of Esther Lynn welcomes you to a brand new edition of BTL. Happy Thursday, everybody. A lot going on. I am on the road here in not so sunny Florida. It's kind of sunny, but not incredibly sunny. But we deal with whatever we got to deal with here for the Jake Paul-Andre August fight, which goes down tomorrow. I actually got to see the iconic voice yesterday in person, which was very cool. But this is going to be a fun edition. This is not your normal BTL. There's just so much happening right now. We're starting a little bit early today. We're going to do a special Q&A edition. We try to do this once a month, and it just so happens this is the month to do it. So thank you for joining us and joining me to answer your questions about UFC 296 and much more. Mr. No Gray Area, Mr. Hot Take, the Cannonball Kid himself, Mr. Jed Meshew. Jed, how we doing on this Thursday?
I'm doing great. One, this isn't just the month to do it. I mean, this is the week to do it. So many things to talk about, Mike, and of course, you can see that's 3 stars, baby. The full bore Machulin star system this weekend's going to be great. Let's get into it.
Yes, we are, of course, going to answer your questions. I'm sure you have a lot of them surrounding UFC 296. But before we get to that, we haven't had the chance, really, as a website, to react to the big news from last night. Chael P. Sonnen goes on YouTube and puts out a quick video that was titled Ian Garry out of UFC 296. He didn't really get into too much specifics about it. And then a couple of hours later, UFC CEO Dana White, he takes to social media. He announces that the rumors are in fact true. I actually believe Jesse on Fire on YouTube was the first to break this news, or at least put this out there. So credit to him. Chael kind of escalated it with his video, and then Dana confirms it. And Jed is a guy who did a reaction pod with the Prince of Positivity, AK Lee, about Ian Machado Garry not showing up to the UFC 296 media day. What was your reaction to this a couple of hours later? Ian Machado Garry off the card, and as of right now, Vicente Luque is also off the card, but who knows if that changes?
Well, one, I was disappointed because, we scrambled together a react pod and we were clear, like this was all speculation. We don't really know why he's not showing up, but it seemed certainly everyone had the same thought, even if that didn't end up being what actually happened. So that was a bummer. And then mostly it was a bummer because when I started thinking about it, like we went through this whole reaction pod that I don't know if we left up or not. I honestly don't know how we handled that. As we talked through it, AK and I were just kind of trying to solve. We're like, all right, well, why would he skip media day? Like if he's not going because of the surrounding circumstances of this week, it'd make more sense to skip the presser than the media day because I mean, God love all our friends and compatriots. It's not like MMA media is the most stringent and difficult group of people to field questions from, whereas at the presser, there will be the whole other group of humans around. So I was like, why would he skip this? And then as we talked through it, I was like, because this is a genius move. Because by skipping media day, what Ian Garry has done is he's made himself the talk of this event already. And then tomorrow at the press conference, all the conversation is going to circle around him. And Colby Covington's going to be up there calling him all sorts as a beta soy boy, can't handle it. And Leon, who he already kind of has a little bit of heat with because of the gym stuff, Leon might even take a few shots. And then if he becomes the talk of the presser and then he goes out and he beats Luque, suddenly Ian Garry's in pole position to be the next guy for the welterweight title because of all this heat. And then none of that was true and he has the flu. So it was a real bummer. I went through a whole event that just ended up being useless. So, and it's a bummer because this is a good fight. Like I was pretty interested in this fight. I mean, fortunately, of all the cards to lose kind of high quality fights, this is the one. Like there are just a ton of them still waiting in the wings to step up. But yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's definitely a bummer. This one probably had more storyline than the freaking main event. With everything going on with Ian, but it started with the flu, according to Dana White, and then it kind of morphed into pneumonia. Pneumonia sucks. You certainly can't fight with it. It's super contagious. Chael was talking about Maybe Ian's child was dealing with symptoms as well. So I know a lot of people are going to give Ian a whole bunch of crap for this, but I mean, if he's got pneumonia, like what do you expect him to do? He's not going to be able to fight. So as of right now, no opponent for Vicente Luque. Although Vicente Luque getting a little bit loud right now. Called out Kevin Holland on Instagram. Kevin took to social media himself with the phone emoji. You know how Kevin Holland is. I did speak to his manager about 30 minutes ago, Oren Hodak, the great Oren Hodak of KO Reps, and he said they did ask the UFC as soon as they found out Ian was out. Kevin, his manager, the team, they reached out to Hunter Campbell to try to secure this fight. As of now, nothing has been said, but then Luque kind of sprinkled on a little bit. Let's do it. I know Luque's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, tweeted out let's go 180 pounds. So maybe they do it at 180. Who knows? But you okay with Kevin Holland stepping in, or would you prefer they just push this one back? What do you think?
No, because the fight between Ian Garry and Vicente Luque, it made sense and it's a good fight, right? Like the both of these dudes are just very exciting. They're both kind of top 12-ish welterweight, somewhere in that area. It makes sense for Ian Garry to get this step up in competition as a launching pad to a top 5 sort of opponent. And it makes sense for Luque as like, all right, I got to hold my position against this young, hungry dude, and then maybe I can get back in the mix. Like it fit a lot of narratives. And so it was a good fight and made sense, but it's not like, this is the only fight that we can do. Like you put Vicente Luque in there with anybody and it's going to be gangbusters. And so Kevin Holland, like I don't know why that's not made. Like this should have already been solved as soon as it was essentially put out into the world. And both guys were like, down. There's no reason, because Kevin Holland's always down to clown, and Vicente Luque's jawing at him. It's like, all right, well, this is one of those fights that should be able to be made within 20 minutes. I'm just being like, hey, Kevin, you want to do this? All right, what's the number? Great, set, get on a plane, get out here, let's go. And I think that probably ultimately is what will happen. It just makes a ton of sense, and it's awesome because let's just let Luque fight. We don't have to hold him for Garry. Garry can fight somebody else, a month from now down the line, because there are plenty of other options in that regard as well.
Yeah, I don't know if Kevin's in Vegas. I probably should have asked that, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was, because a card like this, usually you get half the roster out there anyways, at least attending it. So we'll see if it happens. Maybe Dana will.
If he's not, it's a short flight away, just hop
he
on.
can get there. And he would do it. He would do it, and he'd be rewarded somewhat handsomely for it. And Kevin fights for money as a prize fighter. So that would be fun. We'll see if that actually pans out. But yes, tough one. That was a fight I was really looking forward to, but it is what it is. I think you're probably right here. Of all the fights we could lose, this is probably the one that stings the least. I know it hurts from a storyline perspective, but as far as like a fight perspective goes, like if we lost
the main
Tony
card
versus
for
Paddy,
sure.
Yeah, if we lost Tony versus Paddy, I think it'd be a lot more damaging. But man, this is a tough loss, and hopefully
I don't think it would be damaging
better
to lose anything, though. Like this card is so
it's
deep,
really good.
as long as the 2 title fights stay, and even if you lost the co-main event, even though I think the co-main event is like a more interesting fight in a lot of ways than the main event, if the top 2 fights stay, the rest of this card is so deep that like losing one or even another fight this weekend is fine. Like they don't have to rebook. Like they don't have to rebook Luque. They could just give him a little money and be like, hey, we're going to rerun this fight a month from now. That would also be fine. And you can just be like, all right, Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell, you're up on the main card. No one's going to be upset. Like this card is incredibly deep. And so of all the fight cards to suffer losses, this is kind of one that's going to do it the best this year.
That is true. All right.
Well, Cody Garbrandt, Brian Kelleher can get elevated to the main card too. He's super easy. Former bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, there's a lot we could do here, so we'll see what happens. We'll bring in Casey Leydon.
I kind of want that Kevin Holland fight now, though. I mean, you just start talking about it, and it's like, okay, that's a banger. Yeah, I'll tell you what that is. That's a certified banger. Let's make that happen. Ian Garry can go and fight Sean Brady in 2 months or something like that. That's how we can solve this.
Yeah, that may be where he ends up going if they put Luque in there with Holland. So, all right, let's bring Casey in. Time to take your questions. Hi, Casey. How we doing?
Hi, everybody. Hi,
Got the
Jed.
bachelor pad
sleeves?
all to himself right now. Look at this
Yeah.
guy. He's got sleeves on.
Is
I
it
mean,
getting
what a
cold?
life.
Yeah.
It's getting cold in California. Is that where the sleeves are out?
I know. Yeah. Oh my God. What is it like? 72. Oh boy.
Oh,
Gotta
put a
turn the heat,
jacket on.
get the heater on, get the fire going, throw some marshmallows. Ugh. All right. All right. Oh. All right. Sorry. All right. Questions. Here we go.
As you can imagine, the
Whoops.
comment section looks just great.
Ian just getting
Yeah.
ripped to shreds here.
Okay,
It's a lot of very reasonable people responding to things.
It just
Fair.
it just reminds me. I forget like how much. I'm honestly I'm just disappointed in MMA fans. I'll just say it. I'm just disappointed. I know I shouldn't have my expectations anywhere, but like, why do you guys hate fighters so much? They just hate fighters. Like when you give
And women.
and women. Yeah, they just it's women and fighters. It's like, come on, be better. Let's talk about the main event. Oops, let me get this bigger.
All right, Joe D, can you see Colby
sorry.
wrestling? Can you see Colby wrestling Leon for 5 rounds and win with that? I'm gonna just put it out there into the universe, Jed. I listened to No Bets Barred. I had a traffic-filled drive from the Jake Paul, Andre August press conference back to where my parents' house, where I'm staying right now. I listened to No Bets Barred. Wonderful program. You inspired me in lots of ways because of the watch party. I do play some bets. And I will say this, I have a bet on Colby Covington by decision at plus 250. I'm not thrilled about it. I don't feel confident in it, but I feel like this fight is a little bit closer than a lot of people are giving it credit for. It is not out of the realm of possibility for Colby to wrestle Leon for 5 rounds and get a win. And let's be clear, if Colby wins this fight, he's got to win by decision. So I do have a little bit of a value sprinkle on Colby by decision. Again, I'm not overly confident about it. I know you're very confident Leon Edwards wins this fight, although you won't be completely shocked if Colby is able to win. But if Colby does Colby things, here's the thing for me, Jed. The first 7 minutes of this fight are going to tell me a lot. If Colby comes out kind of static and plays let's see what in the second Kamaru Usman fight, he got cooking in round 3 and then he won the rest of the fight. But it took him like 2.5 rounds to do anything. And that obviously hurt him in the fight. But if he comes out and can win the first round, maybe get some momentum heading into round 3, this is a completely different fight. This changes everything. So do you see a world where if Colby gets off to a good start, that Leon Edwards bettors are like, this is not good?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like super possible. My confidence in Leon is that I don't want Colby to win. And so I'm manifesting this. And I in general do think that this fight favors him for a number of pretty obvious reasons. One, Leon is a pretty good defensive wrestler. I mean, Kamaru Usman, who is a different kind of wrestler than Colby Covington is, but I think people would largely say a superior wrestler to Colby, did not have a ton of success in the second fight with Leon. In the first fight, he obviously did. And I think if Colby's going to win, it looks a lot like the Usman-Leon fight. One, just without the head kick at the end, right? Like it is pressure and pace, and he gets positions, and he gets those takedowns. It won't stun me if he can do this. Colby Covington is a very, very good wrestler and a cardio machine. But Leon had made adjustments in that second fight with Usman. Usman still scored some takedowns, but he was able to hold position far less than he was before. And most of the takedowns got stuffed. Statistically, Usman and Colby are pretty much identical in their takedown success rates. And again, I think Leon is going to fare better against this, particularly the style Colby wrestles with, because Usman is a much better control grappler than Colby is. So Colby gets takedowns, but he's kind of often lets people up, or people just get up and then he takes them back down again. And it's sort of that cardio exhaustion strategy. I'm not sure how well that plays against Leon, who's already proven to be quite good at getting up. So stylistically, I do think that Leon is favored here, but it was 2 fights ago that Leon got controlled on the ground for most of the fight. And I know that the narrative got shifted entirely with the head kick, and maybe that's just, but there was a reason that John Anik and Joe Rogan and everyone were writing Leon off. Like he looked mentally broken and defeated because he had been sort of smushed for the last 15 minutes before that. And pulled out a miracle highlight. And so I think it would be dumb to be like, Colby can't win this, because there is a clear path, and it's a path that sort of aligns with how he normally gets his business done. I'm just not sure, particularly because here's the other thing, Mike. Here's arguably the biggest single thing about this. Colby hasn't fought in 2 years. Like, it's not quite 2 years, but it's March of 2022 or whatever. Like, it's well over 18 months since he has last competed. That is so long to be off. And he is not a spring chicken, like he's 35, pushing 36. We've all seen the stats about being 35 and up in weight classes below 170 and success rate. Like, there are just a lot of outside factors that make me really think that Leon should win this. But again, can't be stunned if he loses.
The fallout of this fight is going to be super interesting. And I don't know if there's a question about that here. I mean, a lot of people feel like if Colby loses, like maybe he retires, because like what else is there for him? He goes 0-3 in undisputed title fights. I think he would become the first fighter in UFC history to accomplish that feat. And I wouldn't even say accomplish that feat.
No, Uriah Faber had to have done that, didn't he?
I think Joe B.
0-3?
I mean, Joe B definitely did, because Joe B went 0 for 2 Joe B technically went 0 for 4 because he missed twice against DJ, lost against Figgy when Figgy couldn't win the belt, and then lost against Figgy when Figgy won the belt.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So Joe B definitely, but I feel like Uriah fought 3 times for the UFC, or maybe one of those was an interim though.
It was interim. Hen and Brow, right?
Interim.
Was the interim?
Hen and Brow was interim. You're right.
Yeah.
And then he also lost several for the WEC. So
basically that's not a list you want to be on, is going 0-3 in undisputed title fights. That's a tough one. And it's really tough to come back from. So
it's not a good list. Yeah. Do you think he retires? I mean, I could understand it. I just feel like he'll just try and stick around and get money fights.
He's retired now. I mean, I don't feel like he's a real fighter now. I feel like he's just a celebrity fighter they put in to sell pay-per-views. If he can sell pay-per-views, he'll be back at the top. I don't know. That's why this fight's even being made.
I mean, you could do the Masvidal fight again. You could do Poirier, I guess, to like settle that.
I think
beef.
Poirier just has no interest in that, is what it sort of seems like. So, I mean, maybe. I feel like he might stick around 1 or 2 more, because hell, I thought he was going to like leave welterweight after losing Usman a second time. It's like, yeah, you should just try and go up to middleweight and pick a fight with Sean Strickland or whoever. So I think he'll probably stick around, but Casey's sort of right. It's not like he's the most active dude in the world anyway.
What if Colby wins? Like, and I'm not even talking about it from the Colby side, because things are just going to get super weird if Colby wins. What if just on the Leon side, if Colby wins the belt and Leon is no longer the champion, where does he go? I mean, it's kind of like how much work will he have to do to get back to a title shot? Because it took him a long time, Casey, to even get that shot to begin with. So what happens if Leon loses the belt on Saturday? Where does he go?
I just think 2 wins. He's maybe fight Belal. That's right. It's right there. Leon Belal.
Man, that's poor. It's tough for Belal, man. This is.
Oh no, it's absolutely tough for Belal. I mean,
Belal screwed.
Either way,
I think
if Colby
Belal's
wins, I don't think he's getting the title shot. But if Leon wins, I think he might get it.
If Leon wins and Shavkat either doesn't win impressively, or the winner of Shavkat Wonderboy is too hurt, like to do a timeline. I think I was having this conversation with somebody on Twitter yesterday. Belal's only getting a title fight if they have no other options. Like, that's just it.
If they go to Manchester first half of 2024, which Dana did an interview with TNT Sports, and he basically said he wants to tap into some of these other markets besides London. If they could book something in Manchester, and I heard Pete Carroll talk about they're building a brand new arena in Manchester that seats over 20,000 people. It's going to open in April. If they could bring a card to Manchester and Leon headlines, it doesn't really matter who he fights. If Belal's ready, they could do that. Throw Tommy Aspinall on that card to defend the interim title. If you do that, like that, I think Belal has the best chance. But I think I mean, it really being available is going to be Bilal's best friend here, especially if Leon wins. If Colby wins, boy, it might be
It's
tough.
not going to matter.
It might be tough. Yeah.
Remind me the history. How did Leon get the title shot? And how did Leon get the title shot? What was the kind of the storyline? Was there someone? Was he a late notice? Was there someone just?
No, he had done a lot. Usman had kind of called him out, and then at that point there was just nothing else that was really going on for Usman because we had all assumed that it was going to be Hamzat, right? Like, was that sort of where it was going? But then that kind of just never ended up happening. And so it was like, all right, let's do Leon.
Yeah. I mean, it just got to the point where it's just, all right, let's just do the damn thing. They were going to Salt Lake City. You know what I mean?
I'm just getting kind of flashbacks because when we talk about Belal getting a title shot, well, nothing else is there, so he'll get a title shot. I feel like I'm just back at the Leon kind of the same.
It is,
same thing.
dude. It's exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's the same. He deserves. I'm not here to talk about. He obviously deserves the shot, but he's only going to get it if Leon, like if circumstances roll out the same way. And that was my whole thing with Leon and his sort of approach to this. Is like, okay, it can work for you. Like that has worked at a period of time. Like honestly, Tyron Woodley sort of had the same thing happen in his title fight, like when he fought Robbie Lawler, which was weird because he was on the shelf for 18 months or something. But historically, it's just not the safest way to go about things, and things have to break real well for you. And so, like, I think Bilal's going to have to fight somebody else.
We shall see.
I mean, because here's the thing, like that will depend on timeline. Certainly, if they do go to London, then maybe Belal just sneaks in there. But if Shavkat wins, he's definitely, I think he has taken pole position if he beats Stephen Thompson impressively, even though maybe that's not meritocratic or whatever. And then like, I don't know, Jack Dell is fighting Gilbert Burns in February or whatever. If he shows out against Gilbert Burns, like what? Belal he's going to have to make a compelling reason to get that title fight real soon.
So that fight, like I know it was reported. I know that's what Jack's team wants, but that fight's not done, or even really close to being done.
Tell that to Tapology because they have it listed.
Well, it's trust. As we tell you all the time, the golden rule: if it's not on MMAfighting.com, it ain't a thing.
I trust Tapology; they're good people.
It's a great website. It is a great website.
It's a good website.
In the works
a
lot.
Good website.
Yeah, great
website. So this is kind of interesting too, because Leon said some interesting things. Who besides Colby does the UFC actually want as welterweight champion? So Leon believes the UFC is rooting for Colby. I don't think that's. I don't know if they're like straight rooting for him. I don't know. They're tapping into like a big market right now. I know the London thing kind of lost a little bit of momentum because the ticket prices went up and it was just the same arena over and over again. So I think it lost a little bit of its luster, but Dana telling TNT Sports they want to go to different places in the UK and in Europe. I think they this works better if Leon is the champion, does it not? So do you think the UFC is rooting for Colby to win this fight? And if not, like if Dana and the brass had their druthers, like who is their ideal welterweight champion right now?
I think that this is good matchmaking and from the UFC standpoint of they don't actually care who wins, which is not what happens all the time. That's sort of one of my big pet peeves with their matchmaking is like sometimes they're very clear they are in the corner of somebody. Like they have set it up where one win is much better than the other. I think in this one, it's fine. Both come with complications, both come with benefits. I think if Leon stays your welterweight champion, it's all the stuff you said. He is, you now have two British champions. That's pretty useful for them. And Leon is starting to maybe gets a bump by beating Colby as well. So maybe he starts becoming something that's a little bit more marketable outside of England. If Colby wins, look, he's going to be a nightmare to deal with as champion. That is just how that will be. But he is marketable. People tune into him. He drives interest for good or ill. And so I think that this is kind of one of those situations where they're okay with it. But who wins will really dictate what comes next for their plan. And so that's like that is why I am interested in this fight. Not for the fight itself, though it's somewhat interesting, but the after effects of this are going to be wild because it's a huge range of outcomes here, right? Like Shavkat, I still think has the inside track, but Shavkat is not the most marketable individual from a talking on a microphone standpoint, if you've heard him at all this week. But he can just be the silent dude in the funny hat who absolutely obliterates everyone he fights, and that won't be the worst thing. I think if they had their druthers, Hamzat would have been their welterweight champion. But baby's thrown out in the bathwater with that one. Hamzat's up at middleweight now, so I think it's fine either way for them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
This
is not Sean O'Malley versus Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah, no, they don't have a side that they cared that much more. If I had to guess, I would say that they would slightly prefer Leon over Colby to win this, just because Leon is easier for them to deal with. Because I'm relatively certain that if Colby becomes champion, he is going to do nothing but try to fight Conor McGregor.
Isn't that what the UFC wants?
Do they? I honestly have no idea.
I don't want it, but obviously, I bet as far as like selling tickets and pay-per-views, isn't that exactly what the UFC wants?
I don't know, because I think Conor's going to sell pay-per-views anyway, and having Conor lose again is probably not ideal.
All right. What else we got? Joseph asks, can Wonderboy secure a title shot on this card? So, look, of all the weird things that could happen here, Wonderboy beat Shavkat Rakhmonov. And look, I know a lot of people think it's impossible. The betting lines, I think Shavkat's the biggest favorite on the card by a pretty healthy number. But if Wonderboy could somehow go... People forget, like, Wonderboy, once he gets taken down, is not great. But it's not thoroughly easy to take him down. He does have pretty underrated takedown defense, although Gilbert Burns and Belal Muhammad didn't seem to think so. But if somehow...
It's getting worse the older he's getting.
For sure. But if somehow... Because Shavkat's been saying... you know what, dude, I'm just going to stand with you. Like, I don't have to take you down. I'll just stand there. Wonderboy doesn't believe him, so he's not really prepared for a straight stand-up battle. But, Jed, if Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, at 40 years of age, about to turn 41 in February, if he goes out there and beats Shavkat Rakhmonov, does he get his day in court here? Does he get his one last opportunity to fight for undisputed gold?
Well, then he would join the ranks of dudes who have lost 3 undisputed title shots.
Well, he would only lose 2 because he has a draw.
Yeah, but if you're the challenger, that's a loss. If you don't win the belt, you lose. That's my... I view draws as wins for champions because they keep the belt, so it's a friggin' dub. It wouldn't stun me. I would still lean no, but the people who out there are like, no, he lost to Belal. Belal would be ahead of him. Like, I wouldn't bet on that. I wouldn't feel real confident about that. It's like, because he's number 6 in their rankings. He beats Shavkat. I'm looking at the ranks right now. He'll move up to 5. 2 good wins. They like him. I wouldn't even be that upset with it. Would it be righteous? No, it would not be righteous. But I'm kind of okay with like letting old dudes get one last title shot, even if we sort of have to squint our eyes and kind of turn the other way on how they get it. Because like I was fine with Dan Henderson fighting Michael Bisping. I know everyone I know a lot of people hated that, but I was like super on board at the time. I was like, well, one, this is who cares? Yes, we all know Michael Bisping would lose to Yoel Romero or Robert Whittaker. We are all aware of this, but it's fine. It's okay. So I would be okay with Stephen Thompson getting it. I'd still lean to think he won't, though.
Yeah. That'd be... Man, imagine being Belal Muhammad, Leon, or Wonderboy goes out and beats Shavkat, and then he gets the shot, and Belal doesn't, after Belal basically like 30-25'd him. Oh, man. That'd be tough. That'd be tough.
If Leon wins, right, like, Colby might actually fight Wonderboy. If people go, like, that actually might be a fight that he would accept. Be like, yeah, I'll just take him down. It's fine. And Leon would probably, I think if you were like, hey, Leon, I know you're going to talk about going up to middleweight. That's real dumb and not going to happen. So just shush it with that. Here are your options. You can fight Belal or you can fight Wonderboy. I feel like he would choose Wonderboy in that scenario. So, yeah, could happen.
Yeah.
I see a path. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's
That'd
not
be
right.
insane.
It's not right, but it could happen.
Wonderboy's pretty popular too, man. Like the
He's
dude
very
does
popular.
numbers. He does numbers.
and
People
his
like
His
him.
YouTube channel
If
has
you
been
see act-
consistently growing.
And Fusi actually promoted Wonderboy and his story and his, being 40 and stuff. And I think there's a real storyline there, especially if he, honestly, of the main card fights, I think, I forget. Would Wonderboy be the biggest, or maybe it was Tony Ferguson, who would be the biggest kind of like, no way they won that fight on the main card?
It's Wonderboy. It's definitely Wonderboy.
Over Tony. Okay, cool.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Checking.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah,
I
don't
feel
know
like-
about that.
Public perception, it's definitely Wonderboy.
Well, public perception, it's Wonderboy, and odds wise, it's Wonderboy. Straight up, I will be far more surprised if Tony Ferguson beats Paddy Pimblett than I will be if Wonderboy wins. Particularly if Shavkat does choose to stand with him. Like, here's the list of people who have won striking battles with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Anthony Pettis in a fight he was absolutely losing. Until the sick. I was at that fight. It was Nashville. It was the sick cage Superman punch. Trying to think of. You could argue that Tyron Woodley really won the striking battle with Wonderboy, considering he almost decapitated him like 4 times.
But that's with the serious threat of takedowns. So
yeah,
I know what you mean though.
And that's it. That's it. I mean, I know technically Darren Till won, but I watched that fight and he did not. So yeah, that's the list of people who have won striking contests that I recall. Maybe I'm forgetting something there. It's like Kevin Holland learned that lesson. Like, hey, we all thought Kevin Holland would shoot. He didn't, and he got tuned up. If Shavkat really doesn't shoot, it won't shock me if Stephen Thompson is just like real weird and awkward.
Did Shavkat ever shoot on Jeff Neal?
I don't recall.
He pretty much got in the fire with him. Like he fought Jeff Neal the toughest way possible and still came out on top. So yeah, I completely expect Shavkat to stand with Wonderboy.
He shot 4 times against Jeff.
Oh, he did.
Against Jeff Neal.
He did. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
I mean, yeah, I don't suspect that he will take that tack, but if he does, Wonderboy has a great chance. And I just wouldn't be all the way shocked if it happened. So, but Tony Ferguson, I'm very sorry for y'all. And I hope for the millions of Tony fans that this doesn't go this way. But I explained this on No Bets Barred to our wonderful people. I've lived this before. I was that guy. I was the man who just BJ's still showing something. Like there's still a reason to believe BJ's going to win this one. Dennis Seaver's just not very good. BJ can get it done. Oh, Ryan Hall's a grappler. He can't strike at all. BJ has incredible takedown defense. He's just going to keep it on the feet and box with him. Like it's Clay Guida. Clay Guida is also old and has to take people down. And BJ's so good at that. I just did this. I lived this life. I'm there for you guys. I understand how sad it is. It's just not going to happen for Tony, man.
Yeah, I do have a bet.
When you lose 6 fights in a row, you don't suddenly win one. It's not how it goes.
I have a bet on Tony Ferguson by decision at plus 700 because I don't think he's going to finish Paddy if he wins because Paddy is, people can say what they want about him. The dude can take a shot. He is incredibly durable. He is very difficult to finish. I think Paddy will probably have the momentum at the end. Look, I don't know how that friggin' fight's going to go. Like Paddy could just ice Tony in a round in that one. Like nothing would completely shock me here. So I don't know. I honestly have no clue what's going to happen to that fight because Paddy's been out for a while too. And he was dealing with a pretty tough injury, ankle surgeries, trying to get back, all that stuff. He's been out for a year since the Jared Gordon fight. He didn't look relatively great in that fight either. So I don't know. We'll see. All I want to see is Tony I want to see Tony just go out there and compete. I want to see him be competitive. Even if he loses, I just want to, even if he gets finished in the 3rd round, if he has like a just a super fun fight and loses, I'm okay with that. Like, it won't break my heart. The Chandler fight broke my heart because of how the way the friggin' fight ended, but he did have a good first round. And I know people fall into this trap too. We're like, oh, he did this in his last fight.
You listen to No Bets Barred.
The Bobby Green fight, you just, the Bobby Green fight, he lands a shot. I don't think it was technically a knockdown going back and rewatching that. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he dropped Bobby Green. I think Bobby just kind of was off balance more than anything. But you just saw that fight go downhill real quick for Tony, and you just knew that this is just a mercy type of thing. We're just waiting for the referee to come in and stop this freaking fight in any way because Tony's just getting dusted up by Bobby. So I just don't want to see a fight where Tony has like a good 3 minutes and then Paddy just obliterates him. Just give me 2 exciting rounds where it's kind of close, and then whatever happens in round 3, like I can live with that. You know what I mean?
I would like to see Paddy just beat the absolute soul out of Tony Ferguson. We need to be done with this. Like I know that everyone is talking themselves into it, Tony most of all. We need to recognize that at some point your number is called, and that's just it. And this game is unforgiving, but it happens to the best fighters of all time. And maybe if Paddy Pimblett, who no one respects, goes out there and just lays wood to him for as long as it takes, maybe Tony will wake up and realize, man, it's not Goggins. Like it's not a lack of effort that is getting me here, because the Goggins thing is the weirdest thing to me. Be like, yeah, I got to say, I said this on No Bets Barred, of all the people in the history of this sport who I would be like, you know what will turn their fortunes around? Working real hard with David Goggins. Tony's last on the list. That is not what has been ailing Tony Ferguson. Effort and kind of psychopathic training has not been the problem for Tony. So like doing more of that isn't going to make any difference here. Like it's just time. And I know that fighters and identity are really complicated, horrible subject, but bro, it's just done. You had a great career, had a great run. You're one of the best lightweights of all time.
Hall of Fame.
Like, yeah, Hall of Famer, one of the very best
Like,
lightweights
legit.
who've ever stepped foot in the cage. And Father Time comes for us all. And when he comes, sometimes it's hard and fast and sucks ass for you. And unfortunately, you were one of those people. But like, I want to see the outcome that will get Tony to quit doing this, because I don't want to keep having this conversation every 5 months. I am done with it. I would like Tony to be done and move on to the next stage of his life.
Yeah, he has to take just a one-sided 3-minute ass whooping for him to leave. If he has one good minute, if he has one good strike,
you can sell
that will be enough for him to get one more opportunity against whoever the step below Paddy Pimblett is. I don't know. Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper. He'll fight Chase Hooper next.
That probably is actually what would happen. And it's just man.
I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Like, if he gets one good strike on him, one good takedown, almost wins a round, he's coming back and he's fighting Chase Hooper. And Chase Hooper,
Because again, it's the same things that Tony fans and the same things Tony fans are telling themselves, like, hey, he won that round against Michael Chandler, which he did. And hey, he looked okay against Nate Diaz until he sort of fell off, which, okay, he did. And, the Bobby Green headbutt or eye poke or whatever it was, like, Tony can say and is saying all those same things to himself, because fighters cannot reckon with this part of the game. Very few of them have ever gone gracefully out of the sport. It has to be beaten into you. And if freaking Paddy Pimblett goes and beats it into him, maybe that is what will happen. And that's why I want it. Like, I don't want ill things to happen to Tony Ferguson, but if it's going to be worse for him. If he sticks around longer, this is just going to prolong in an awful way. Just get fucking nuked by Paddy Pimblett, and let's be done with this.
What's been so weird about this fight is like the roller coaster ride it's been, because when it was booked, it was probably like the most polarizing matchmaking in the last 5 years. Like, everybody had an opinion on it. Either they loved it or they hated it. There was no gray area with it. And then with all the Ian Machado Garry stuff, it almost like didn't become like a low key fight, but it kind of did. Like people just kind of stopped forgetting about it. The whole storyline of the fight became Tony working with David Goggins. And I feel like this week, with this press conference, it's going to get built up real quick. Like Tony and Paddy at the media day, we're kind of getting after it a little bit. There's some social media blocking and weirdness going on between those two, but I think things are going to ramp up. And I think by the time we get to Saturday, I think this is the fight everyone's going to be talking about, maybe even more so than the main event. So we'll see.
I think that's very likely just because of how big a star Paddy is and how beloved Tony is, and both of them have the ability to talk in ways that nobody else on this card does. Like particularly with Ian Garry out, like who's going to really be dominating the presser? Colby will say stuff, but most of it will seem real dumb. So, like, yeah, I think there's a very, very high chance that that's true. And if he still consists on fighting, let's just send him out the hardest way possible. Dustin Poirier needs somebody at UFC 300. Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson. Just do it.
I thought you were going to say like Benoit Saint-Denis, Tony Ferguson.
I mean, that's more what the UFC would opt to do because of the way that they particularly go about things. But let's let Poirier do it. They've never fought. This will be fine.
How should the UFC be handling Tony Ferguson outside of just not give him a fight? Just say you're done. Shouldn't he have a proper?
I would have cut him from his contract.
Just no retirement, no retirement when you say you're gone.
I would have done the Nate Diaz fight. I would have been a planned fight as opposed to how it sort of came together ramshackle. And that would have been, hey, if you win this fight, we can talk about it. But if you lose, we're going to exit your contract. Because of how that shook out, Bobby Green would have been his. Well, I will not say a retirement fight because I do not think it is on the organization to foist retirement onto a fighter. It's how he makes his living. And if
UFC
you
retirement.
are, yeah, it's his exit from the UFC. Because look, I think Tony should retire, but it's his life and he gets to make that call. And I'm fine with him making that decision about his own life. But if I were the UFC, I would no longer be involved in this. Bobby Green would have been hey, this is it. If you get, if things go poorly like they have been, we're going to exit you from your contract and you can go, do whatever else you want. And that's fine with us, but we are not going to continue doing this.
Let's talk about the best fight on the actual main card. Because no one's asking any questions about it. And
I feel like people are overlooking the Royval Pantoja fight. Everyone's overlooking this fight. Everyone is.
In general. I think there are a lot of good reasons for that, though. I mean, we did watch this fight 18 months ago, and it went very clearly one direction. I'm not saying the same thing will happen. I was a little bit sold by Brandon Royval on the MMA Hour yesterday, talking about this fight and sort of what he learned from the first matchup and sort of how that helped him grow and realize that, I'm paraphrasing, but his quote is, I just sort of always thought I could win every shootout because I'm so dangerous that if I can get guys to get into shootouts with me, then I've already won the fight. And then I realized against Pantoja that, actually that's not going to work here. He can also win this shootout. So, if he brings a different style, a different way of being to this fight, it can be really interesting. I mean, he's got a lot of tools. I don't think that's when the bullets are flying, you are who you are. Like you're just going to be the guy you are deep down inside. And the guy Brandon Royval is deep down inside is an absolute lunatic. And so that's awesome. And it's going to make this really exciting for how long it lasts. But Pantoja is the superior scramble grappler. And in that situation, he's going to get to the dominant positions and he's going to finish the fight.
I love Brandon Royval as a fighter. He's must-see TV. Awesome. I liked him in LFA. I was doing interviews with him well before he was with UFC. Just a fascinating guy. Like every conversation him and I have turns into like a fighter therapy session where I'm just so fascinated about what goes through his mind because he is such a lunatic in there. And one of the things he told me after the Pantoja loss was Mark Montoya would make him stay sort of like after class, and he would set up like a sort of like a line, just kind of like a lap around the gym, almost like a maze. And he made Royval like walk it, like really slowly walk the line. And it was like, if you ever watched Oz, it was like the mind maze in Oz that Tim, the CEO director, put together, where dude just kind of walk in this maze and they collect their thoughts. And Mark Montoya would watch Brandon Royval go around, and as he got better at it, Royval would like continue to speed up at the end of it, and Mark Montoya would be like, "Why are you going so fast?" Because see, this is what you do. Like, you just want to finish things as fast as you can, as opposed to like taking your time and like really thinking about it. And Mark just made him walk around this line, like this maze in the gym, which is basically just like a chalk line. And Brandon just like couldn't get through it by just walking. He just started to get faster and faster and faster. So they worked on that for so long until he could actually get through it without getting faster and speeding up in his walk, which is freaking insane. I love that tactic. So I am super curious about this fight. I'm curious to see if Royval could be a little more polished, like a little more 2023 Justin Gaethje as opposed to like 2016 Justin Gaethje-ish. Like, I'm super intrigued by this fight, but Pantoja has been so good. He's been so good. I love this fight. It's going to be absolute madness for as long as it lasts.
Here are my two questions about this fight, right? What does that even look like? What does a like disciplined Brandon Royval look like? Because I honestly am not sure that I know what that looks like. Like, it's just so anathema to who he is and how he competes. And it might be awesome. Like, maybe it's just really, really good, but I just don't know. And then on the other side of it, I am genuinely interested to see how Pantoja looks with the belt, because the old adage is you get 20% better when you become the champion, right? Like, that's a thing. At the same time, that was such a cathartic win for Pantoja that I don't like the way. Remember, he won the belt and all of that had happened. Dad, are you proud of me now? And like all of that, is he gonna come down to earth a little from that? Like, has he achieved the thing and now maybe loses a little bit of focus, particularly in a rematch with a dude that he dusted up not long ago? So super interesting storylines at play here, and the fight will be sick, but I do ultimately think that this probably just looks like the first one, so it makes sense for it to kind of get overlooked in that regard.
AK's reaction is going to be incredible if Brandon Royval wins. He called it. He said 2023 on our prediction show. 2023 is going to be the year of the Raw Dog.
I hope he does. It would be way cooler
125.
if Brandon Royval wins.
I'm as far as just pure fighting action, this is the fight I'm so looking forward to. So
Yeah.
yes,
This is easily the best in-cage product that will probably happen this week.
Yeah.
And that's a hard story for the UFC to sell. It's like, oh, just two really good fighters.
See, but they're very small. They're very small fighters,
Just
so
move the
it's
camera
tough.
closer so they feel bigger. That's all.
If there
Would
are
honestly
betting
be an
lines,
incredible maneuver.
I mean, if there are betting lines on fight of the night, this would be the favorite right now. I would have to say this has to be
Easily. It wouldn't even be close. Maybe Luque Garry could have been, but with that gone. Now, if you talk Luque Holland, that's also going to be a heater. But we should. I mean, that's the best idea I've ever heard, Casey. Just all flyweight and bantamweight fights are filmed below the fighters.
Yeah.
Like, I think you can do the camera over the cage for everybody else, but you got to find a way to get the up angle for flyweight fights, and then now we're cooking.
And this is kind of a like not a secret, but like that's why to me, from a visual perspective, smaller guys in boxing don't look as small because the cameras are eye level, not above the cage for the most part when you're shooting from the corner. So smaller guys just don't look as small. And but the way all cage fighting is shot, everything is shot slightly down. Mm-hmm. So smaller guys look smaller. So
yeah. What else we got? Question: what fight gets moved up to the main card? I think Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell gets moved up. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I think they need that. I think they keep this fight there for.
I think it's Cody.
To sell. Yeah. Maybe you do Cody and Kelleher.
I think they put Cody and Kelleher because I think they always want like a sort of marquee lead-in fight to the main card, and Emmett Mitchell is that for them. I think they would move Cody Kelleher up. He's a former bantamweight champion. Super easy to do.
And usually, and Emmett Mitchell is the main event on the prelims, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, they never moved that one because, and it's just a TV thing because I promise you they've made promo packages and everything. Stuff. Yeah, and do longer ones too, not just like little
and
quick
yeah,
30-second.
and graphics and stuff. It's
Graphics. Yeah,
just it's a pain in the ass to do.
so they'll move. Yeah, Garbrandt, that makes all the sense.
Yeah.
What about I know they usually don't do this. Like it's very rare they do. They don't even really do this on fight night cards. But what if they did Casey O'Neill, Ariane Lipsky?
It'll be
That's the other
fine.
one.
I just don't think that they would do. I think it'd be more likely they do Aldana Hossa because Aldana just fought for a title. But
yeah,
the
O'Neill
thing,
Lipsky's
like,
gonna be way more fun.
it's definitely way more fun. But I would be pretty shocked if it's not Garbrandt Kelleher. He's former bantamweight champion. It's just like the easiest thing in the world to do.
Yeah, and
He's
they're
not
not
doing anything in the prelims for them.
Yeah, and they're not going to put Garbrandt on ESPN again because remember they did that last time when he fought Trevin Jones and that fight was bad.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
a real bad fight. So,
Yep.
all right, what else we got? Let's keep it going.
Plus, Casey O'Neill's coming off a loss. I feel like they just won't do that.
If Colby wins, is it him versus Strickland at UFC 300 as the super fight Dana was talking about? I friggin' hope not.
I can't say no, but man, I want to say no. Like you can never discount what kind of weird, insane stuff the UFC is going to opt to do these days, but that seems like the worst possible idea, as far as I'm concerned.
So
is that a super fight though? Like, is that like
it's champion versus champion?
But that's my thing about super fights now. Like, Jed, you are like the man who has captained the ship about just defending your title over and over again in your division, which
people coming around, people getting on board. I love it.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely co-captaining that. I have the shotgun seat now. I had to throw somebody out of there, but I'm certainly there now. What the frig is a super fight now? Like heading into 2024, is Volkanovski Topuria an actual super fight compared to Volk versus Makhachev? Because like it's so much rarer to see a champion defending his belt against the next guy up. Like that is more super fight. Like what is a super fight now? That's what I want to know. Like what is Dana White and the UFC actually considering a super fight? I don't think this is a super fight. Like Conor versus like somebody could be, but it's got to be like even that. Like, what is actually a super fight? Is it bringing like all-time great? Like, if they, I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. Is if they do GSP versus Anderson Silva at UFC 300, like the fight everybody always wanted but never got. Is that a super fight now? Like, would that be considered a super fight?
That would be a super fight. Yes.
I mean, look, it's a super fight well past its expiration date, like well past it. But like, it's a Twinkie, you know, they never go bad. It's fine. So that's I would watch the hell out of that. I would be unreasonably excited for what is objectively not a very good fight anymore.
I'm not saying this is gonna happen. GSP has already been like, hey, I did great here. I'm not fighting. Don't worry, I'm not fighting. But if they did that, that'd be super fun.
It would be incredibly fun. They're going to consider anything with two belts a super fight, but no, this would be not a super fight by any other definition of the phrase. Like, it would just be a fight. I don't think they do it. I think it is more likely they do Conor Colby, but I just don't. I don't know what happens if Colby wins. Like, I'm very, very unsure unless they just make him fight Belal, which would be admittedly quite funny. But I just have no idea what they would do with him because I don't know what he will accept or won't accept.
I mean, I think the timing of this fight actually could unweird this slightly because I saw somebody screenshot this. I haven't actually looked at this myself, but apparently on the UFC website for UFC 299, it's got O'Malley and Cheeto there, but it also has a TBD versus TBD there. At least that's what I saw in the screenshot. So maybe that's not Colby headlining in Miami. Could that, even if it's Belal, could he do that?
That would actually be a really good idea. It would be a really good idea.
He would fight Belal in Miami, I think, just to fight on that card.
You would certainly know more about who he would fight. I think he would definitely fight in that card, and that would make a ton of sense.
So
It's good. It's a good, solid idea. And
I feel like
whoever is
I feel
willing
like
to take the fight and can.
I do feel like over the last couple months, like the momentum and things needing to break for Belal have kind of happened. Like little things along the way. Like even the thing you mentioned about Ian Machado Garry. That was one of the things I thought of heading in. Like this whole thing is brilliant because by the time he gets to the press conference, it's just going to be all about Ian. Everyone's just going to fire shots at Ian, every single person except for maybe Paddy, because they know each other from the Cage Warriors days. But even that, maybe Paddy takes a shot. Like Ian will be the focus of the press conference, and if he goes out there and dusts Vicente Luque, that's something you could think about in terms of like him jumping the line over anybody else, because the momentum that kid's going to have following that would be gigantic. But now Garry not even fighting, that opens the door even a little bit for Belal too. Like literally so many little things. Comes up moving to 185. That opened the door a little bit for Belal. Like just little things along the way have continued to open the door for Belal just a little bit more. Now having this Miami card in March with Colby wanting, at least he said this at the media day, he would want to headline that card. Maybe the timing works out. I don't know.
Good. Belal should do something cool on Saturday. Like be cage side in a way that is memorable. Don't try and get into the cage to talk. I think that would
do that.
Too ham-fisted. But find a way to make this a thing. Like
get into a run-in. Get into some kind of run-in with Colby and someone catch it on their cell phone.
You don't want to see the cage face off? You rather him
Nobody
just on the sidelines going like...
I would be fine with the cage face off if the UFC was going to get behind the fight, because then that's just how it goes. But I am deeply uncertain that they will, and I am fairly certain that either man in the main event will not be looking to Belal as their first option. So they aren't going to riposte with him or whatever,
Yeah, pull a Michael Chiesa. Just jump the rail, have security get in your way. They escort you from the building, but at least like that's a cool vision of like Belal trying to get something cooking, but he doesn't say a word. I love that idea.
Yeah, you got to do some way to make your presence felt this week. I'm not sure what it is, but you got to get out there. And yeah, things are breaking okay for him. Like there's a chance here, but it feels real tenuous, man. Like, because if Shavkat just dummies Wonderboy, I think he's in pole position.
Remember where Belal was at like over the summer? The last time I talked to Colby was the infamous John Anik line. That's when that happened, when he was like, I'll go to Anik's house and beat him up or whatever he said. And Belal like responded to that perfectly and did a real good job like keeping that story going on, saying that he would go to Miami and like find Colby. That was in April, right? So that was actually like a kind of an interesting thing that was happening there. And there was actually a little momentum being like, hey, you know what? Maybe the UFC will actually make this fight. Instead, if like Masvidal beat Gilbert Burns, like maybe Belal gets his wish, and then time goes by and like narratives change so quickly in this sport.
He should try to force his way onto the broadcast team and just be like, DC, let me get that headset from you, my man. Let me get in there with the Anik and let me start chopping up about these two bums.
Belal needs to just not rush the press conference, but the post presser, whenever Leon or Colby's doing his post presser thing,
should definitely be in the room.
Be in that room and just go raise your hand. Do that Ryan Bader thing, whatever, Ryan Bader and Cormier, or James Toney did this. That's how James Toney got a freaking fight.
Luis Palomino? You mean Luis Palomino?
Oh yeah, maybe not do that.
Don't get dunked on like that.
Yeah, that did not work out well for Ryan Bader. That really didn't. That was a tough scene.
I don't know. I mean, so it didn't work out well for him, but I still I remember that now forever. I will remember it forever. I want the easiest fight in the division. Give me Ryan Bader.
If Colby is on the dais and he's saying that, pointing at, give me the easiest fight, Dan. Give me the easiest fight. Then it still gets his name out there.
Give me the Don Chaney, John Calipari thing from when John Calipari was the coach of UMass basketball and Don Chaney was the coach of Temple, and he just stormed into Calipari's press conference and said, "I'm gonna kick your ass, John. I'm gonna kick your ass." That was like the viral moment of like the early '90s in college basketball. So yeah, well, Belal just needs to do something interesting here. He can't.
He needs a brief outburst. That's it. Just Leon's up there. Leon, no one gives a shit about you going to middleweight. I mean, if Leon wins, he should have bars set, because that's what I would be like, Belal, get at me. I got you, buddy. Like, so you spent years complaining and bitching about how you weren't getting your fair shake and your fair shot, and now you hold the belt and you're just gonna do the exact same thing to me. That's bullshit. Nobody gives a fuck about you going up to fight a middleweight. Give me my title shot, and like that's it. Like you're heated with Leon right there.
I just love how this is just pro wrestling. Occasionally they fight, but otherwise it's just
all
pro
things
wrestling.
Are pro wrestling, Casey. That's what we learn as we get older.
Yeah,
and people hate to hear that too.
They hate it. This is all. Like,
it's storyline driven sport. Like, this is what the UFC is. This is why the UFC is so successful. This is why PFL is not the co-leader, because they don't have any like fun storylines right now. Their best storyline is who is Francis gonna box next, and he's not even fighting for them right now.
Yeah,
like that's
people
their most interesting thing.
Colby
right
Strickland, that'd be great because of all the trash talk. Yeah, because you like pro wrestling, people. You like pro wrestling. You just want to see promos.
I got to tell you, that would not be great because of all the trash talk. It'd be pretty bad. Colby is an objectively horrific trash talker.
I love it. I kind of love it. The more time he gets on the mic and the more he misspeaks.
It's funny. It's unintentionally funny, which is not. He never figured. It's so shocking how he could never figure it out, because it's not that hard. Like, he's just doing Chael, but without the knowing wink to it. And so it's just bad and also poorly executed. So it's just, it's not that tough. You should be better at this stage.
Does Usman get a rematch if Colby wins?
Maybe.
Where is Kamaru Usman in this whole situation?
He's putting Colby over.
If Colby wins, Kamaru Usman might be the dude.
No one's talking about this, but like it's right there.
That would be so awful.
Oh, of course it would be
so bad. Because then when Usman wins again, then Leon will be like, well, I beat him twice. And so we'll spend the next 2 years with the same 3 dudes, 2 of whom are old and not the best anymore. And just be like, all right, so Shavkat just has to beat up everyone until he finally gets his day. Oh, it's every outcome that Colby wins is so much worse. Yeah. Please, Leon, please do the thing.
Let's see. Chad, your hair is being admired here.
Oh, thank you.
No,
this is
no comment about my hair, freshly cut.
This is me not showering this morning. So,
all right.
We have time for like 2 or maybe 2 more.
Yeah, one more.
We have time forever. I got nothing going on.
Will we see Jim Miller on the UFC 300 card and versus who? Yes, we will see Jim Miller on the UFC 300. Even Dana
it's guaranteed.
Confirmed it. Yeah. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who he fights, but if you had
I think Jim Miller could break his leg on fight week and he would still fight. Like, I honestly think that this is a thing that would happen. So like, I'll just go in and I'll figure it out. Like, I don't know.
Find somebody else with crutches and just do like a crutch fight. Love that.
Just limp his way out there and just be like, all right, Imanari rolls, baby. Let's go.
I want to bring him up, but would Jim Miller, Tony Ferguson be the perfect double retirement fight if Tony doesn't retire?
I like that idea.
It seems to it just makes a lot of sense.
I've been pushing a lot for Dustin Poirier. Because Poirier says he wants to fight at 300. I think Poirier, Jim Miller's makes total sense. If you disregard the fact that Poirier is like a top 5 lightweight, because he's not going to defend position, like he is basically said so himself, then just let him fight dudes who have been around and are cool. The first fight with Jim Miller was deeply competitive and fun. Run that back at 300.
Yeah.
Jim Miller's not going to beat the soul out of Tony Ferguson and get him to leave. I need people who are just going to absolutely tar and feather this man until he cannot talk himself into coming back anymore.
He has to be.
That's harsh, but that's just the world. Like, that's just the world we're in, guys. That's how we got where we were with BJ. Again, I lived this. I know this experience, y'all. It's
All right, one more. We'll go one more.
One more. There you go. Last one.
We will have a preview show tomorrow, by the way. What is the headline they will write on Sunday morning about UFC 296? So what will be... I'll rephrase this, Jed. What will be the talking point? What will be the topic of conversation that we will spend the most time on the post-fight show after this event, in your opinion?
I'm going to go with, is Shavkat Rakhmonov next for Leon Edwards? Because I think both of them are going to win. I think Leon's going to try and shift this narrative to the middleweight thing. Like, that is, the reports have come out that he intends to do that. That's just not going to gain any steam. Like, I truly don't think anyone at all cares about that. And I expect Shavkat to be very impressive. And so it's one of those things where when two dudes in the same weight class kind of near each other in the perceived rankings and conversation perform well, hey, are these two dudes going to fight next? And I think we're ready to be there with Shavkat, and Leon gets a good win. I think that would be my pick if I had to guess.
What do you think, Casey?
I'm actually 100% with Jed. I was thinking that too. Shavkat, I'm predicting Shavkat to win big. I'm predicting Edwards to win big. And and is that the fight we're gonna get? And a lot of poor Belal.
Yeah, but be like, well, is that the fight we're gonna get, or is Bilal's done enough? Like, what about Belal and stuff? So
it's gonna be basically who Leon choose. Well, I get the whole middleweight thing. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, who's he gonna fight next at middleweight? Yeah, welterweight. And
I just don't think we're gonna have to talk about that. I think the UFC is gonna no sell the middleweight thing because they should, because no one cares. Just no one cares.
I think Leon told Damon, and I didn't listen to the MMA Hour conversation because it was my day off, but I think he told Damon that he clarified it and was like, I'm not asking for it like right now, but in the future. I don't know if it's just like a turn. Maybe you saw the reaction to him and was like, maybe this wasn't the best idea. I will go with...
Ask for it. No one wants it.
I'm going to play the odds here. I'm going to play the odds. Shaheen Al-Shadi is going to be on the post-fight show. This will be This will be Pimblett Ferguson will get the most time.
I think I thought for a brief moment you were going to shout out your best friend and be like, welcome to the year of the raw dog. But
could be that.
Yeah, you're probably correct. If Tony Ferguson wins, I think that's going to be the biggest thing coming out of this. When he doesn't, because he won't, it'll just be a sadder conversation about like, well, 7 in a row, 6 by finish, or whatever the number is. Stuff.
AK will be on the watch party for Ferguson versus Pimblett, since this is all his fault that this fight is happening. So he will be on. He will be on for that fight, and that will be the only guest for the entire watch party.
Only guest.
That's it. Just AK for that fight, and then GC and I in our incredible holiday sweaters in the festive set.
Is it a surprise Santa guest? Is that what's happening? Secret Santa?
That's it. No, because we're just gonna. But the screen gets a little too crazy. You know what I mean? Because we have, especially with the bets and stuff, it gets a little too bogged down. Plus we want to watch these fights. You know what I mean? Like, these fights.
Got to get the guests in studio.
That would be cool. Got to
get the guests in studio. That's the move.
UFC 300, we might have to figure something out, because apparently if they book, it all depends on when they book UFC 300. Because if they book UFC 300 in April on a specific weekend, like, GC's not even going to be able to do it because he's got like multiple weddings to attend.
GC and I talked about this off air a little bit. I was like, yeah, look, I'm here. I'm ready.
That'd be sick. We'll figure it out. I think we're good. You can hit the music, Casey. Don't worry. There's going to be lots more stuff happening with MMAfighting.com. We got 2 press conferences today. UFC 296.
I can't believe we got 0 questions about like every other fight on this card, by the way.
I know.
Because they're all good.
They're all good. We'll have coverage of the Jake Paul, Andre August press conference. Not press conference, the weigh-ins. I'll be there for that ceremonial weigh-in. So only one press conference. Tomorrow we'll have the weigh-in show, preview show, another press conference, ceremonial weigh-in. Saturday, we get after it. UFC 296, 3-star card. Thank you for watching. Good night, everybody.
Love y'all.
This has been Between the Links, an MMA fighting production on the Vox Media Network.